Welcome. The goal of this video lecture is to guide you to the calculation of optical properties of a material via the Yambo code, also including excitonic effects. The title of the lecture is Excitons in Practice. So here you see an overview of the main steps you need to achieve the optical absorption of a material, including excitonic effects. The first step is, of course, ground state DFT calculation, which you can perform either with the Quantum Espresso PWSCF or a Binit code, and which will give you the Kohn-Sham wave functions and band structure. The second step is to compute the quasi-particle correction to correct, in particular, the underestimation of the band gap of the material with DFT. The second step is, the third step is to compute the screening of a material, which is a key ingredient for BSc calculation. In particular, the screening determines the electron interaction and does the formation of excitons. Once you have these three ingredients, you can construct what is the Bethe-Salpeter matrix, also called excitonic matrix. And finally, you can solve it to obtain the optical properties of a material. Now, I will not speak about the ground state calculation, which is not part of the Yambo code, and which you may have already seen in other lectures. I will directly start from the description of the quasi-particle corrections. The quasi-particle corrections with the Yambo code can be performed with the minus GW0 run level, and there is a dedicated lecture for that. Here I just would like to highlight that this calculation produces an NDB QP database, which you can import when you perform a BSc calculation. This is the key input variable, which you need to put in the input file, so that the code will read this database and correct the underlying band structure. In case you didn't perform a quasi-particle calculation, you may also use an alternative way, that is to add the QP corrections from this input variable. For example, you can look at the literature and see that for your specific material, the main effect of quasi-particle correction is to open a gap of 0.8 EV, and then you can put this 0.8 in this input variable. You can put a gap opening, what is called scissor operator in the literature, and you can also eventually add two stretching parameters. Here, these two numbers are for the conduction band and the valence band. If you set them both to 1, you don't add any stretching. If you set them bigger than 1, then you have a stretching of the bands. And if you set them smaller than 1, you will introduce a contraction of the bands. The other key ingredient is the screening, which is the inverse of the dielectric function computed in G space. So you will need both the head, G equal G prime equals 0, the macroscopic screening, but also the microscopic screening for G and G prime different from 0. And in Yambo, you can obtain that solving the Dyson equation for the response function. This is the run level, and in particular, this S is for the static screening. So here you see the input variable for the static screening simulation. You can perform it as a separate simulation. Yambo will create this ndb.em1s database, epsilon to the -1 static, and then load the database in a subsequent calculation. Or eventually, you can directly add these input variables in your BSc input file. In case you previously performed other calculations with Yambo, you may already have some dynamical screening database. That is either this NDB EM1D, which is the epsilon to the -1 dynamical, or this NDB PPA, that is the dynamical screening within the plasmon pole approximation. So both databases contain also the omega equals 0 term, and thus you can avoid the computation of static screening in this case. It is identical to the use of the direct use of the static screening. Once you have all these ingredients, you are ready to perform a Bethe-Salpeter simulation. Now, the Bethe-Salpeter equation is a Dyson equation, which you can write in this form. And this L naught is nothing but the energy difference between valence and conduction. And then these two terms are the derivative of the Hartree kernel, which is called the electron exchange, and the derivative of the exchange correlation on self-energy, which give rise to the exchange correlation kernel. So you can enter this run level via Yambo, setting Yambo minus optics B, and the input file will give you this set of input variables. In particular, you see that you set the optics run level in the electron space. Without any other extra option, you will have independent particle, which means you are not considering any kernel. And then you have the bands, which you use to construct these excitonic metrics. Details can be found in the cheat sheet, which is available on the Yambo wiki. And here I report one of the slides of the cheat sheet, and you see there is a connection between the input variable parameters, for example, the number of bands and the indexes of the excitonic Hamiltonian. What is this conduction valence energy difference, which comes from DFT plus QP. And as we said, the quasi-particle correction can be loaded either via input parameters or from a previous calculation. And then the most important part of the BSE calculation is the kernel, which describes the exchange and the electron interaction. The kernel has a few parameters which you can set to control it. Well, in particular, first of all, you can define the kind of kernel. Here you see the sex mode, which you can obtain via minus kernel sex in the Yambo command line, and determines that you have both the exchange and the direct interaction. For example, if you set Hartree, you will have just the exchange. If you set Hartree-Fock, you will have both the exchange and the direct, but the direct interaction will be the bare interaction. And then you have an energy cutoff for these two terms. And finally, this variable controls the structure of the excitonic matrix. If you just set the causal, it means it will compute both the resonant and the anti-resonant term. Well, the anti-resonant is minus the resonant, but it will neglect the coupling terms. If you set coupling, you will have the full BSE matrix, and if you just set resonant, you will have just the resonant term. And I remind you that the resonant term is an Hermitian matrix. Instead, if you set coupling, you have a matrix which is a pseudo-Hermitian. And so it is much easier to solve the problem for just an Hermitian matrix in the resonant or also in the causal case. Again, you can have a look to the cheat sheet for the details on how the cutoff in particular enters the exchange and the correlation kernel. The cutoff determines the number of G vectors which enter in the sum. And in particular for the correlation part, at the screen and exchange level, the interaction is screened via this term, which contains both macroscopic and microscopic screening. And since you have a sum, you need that the cutoff on this object is at least equal or eventually bigger on the cutoff on the whole kernel. So these few input variables are the same which we saw before in the static screening level, and are just reported here for comparison. I remember that you can directly put them in the simulation for the BSE if you don't want to pre-compute the screening. Now, once you define the BSE matrix, the last step is to solve it. And you can control it with these last keywords, Yambo minus K solver. And in particular, it will give this variable through which you can control the kind of information you want to extract from the solution of the BSC problem. The default is EPS, which is for epsilon, the dielectric function, but you can also ask Magn for magnons, for example, or Kerr to get the off-diagonal elements of the dielectric function and the magneto-optical Kerr effect. The input variable related to epsilon are these ones. So you see you have a direction via this variable belong dir. You can control which element of the dielectric tensor you compute, and the other determines the frequency axis used to plot the dielectric function. In this example, from 0 to 10 eV with 100 steps, and this will give a small imaginary part to the omega frequency, which in practice results in a broadening of the peaks of the BSC. Now, I will present you 3 solvers which are available in Yambo for the solution of the BSC matrix. The first one and the most direct is the diagonalization. So you have an eigenvalue problem with an Hamiltonian. You can brute force diagonalize the Hamiltonians. You get the eigenvalues, E lambda, and the eigenvectors, A lambda, and these can be used to compute the dielectric function. And again, you can have a look to the cheat sheet for the details. It contains the information I was discussing before. In particular, you see how a particular element of the dielectric tensor is selected to the Q going to 0 limit. And here you determine the energy range of the frequency as a step, as I said, the number of steps, the broadening of the peaks here. And in particular, I highlight this input variable, which tells the code to store the eigenvectors to disk when you perform the calculation. Now, the diagonalization solver is, of course, very demanding. It will give you the full spectrum, but also the excitonic energies and the wave functions, which you can later analyze. An alternative solver is the so-called IDOC solver, or Langsos IDOC method. And you can control it via -k solver H. So you see BSS mode is equal H now. In this case, the excitonic matrix is not directly diagonalized, but IDOC uses a recursive scheme to directly extract the dielectric function. This is done through these A and B coefficients, which in practice allow you to approximate the full matrix through a 3-diagonal matrix. So at each step or at each iteration of the solver, a couple of these A and B is obtained, and it is added to this continued fraction till when the step n and the step n+1 give the same spectrum within a tolerance which you can set through this input variable. Again, you have the cheat sheet also for the IDOC solver, and it is highlighted that the most important input variable is this threshold. If you set it as negative, the check will be done on the average of the input spectrum. Pay attention that this may not be very accurate, but it can be useful for getting a first version of the spectrum. And then if you set it positive, you will get a check on the accuracy at every frequency. This is very efficient, as I said, in particular compared to the diagonalization solver, but you just get the spectrum. You don't have any information about the wave function, and so you cannot store them to disk and later analyze them. And the last solver which is available is this SLEPC solver. So it's a solver which is obtained through the use of this SLEPC library. So this time you set -k solver S. So you see BSS mode is equal S. And the key input variable for this solver is that you can define the number of eigenvectors and eigenvalue you want to compute. And eventually, you can decide that you want these 20, in this case, around a given energy. So the code will look for the 20 closest eigenvalues to this energy. And here there is a plot of the dielectric function comparing the red line, which is the Haydock solver, with the outcome of the SLAP-C solver, which is this violet area. As you see, the spectrum is identical in this energy range, but then the SLAP-C goes to 0 above a given energy. This happens because the spectrum up to this energy is determined by the first n eigenvectors, eigenvalues, but then with SLAP-C you don't have the next ones, which you have in Haydock. However, the advantage of the SLAP-C is that you also have the excitonic wave function and you can plot it. So the equation for constructing the dielectric function, you can look again at the cheat sheet, is the same as for the diagonalization solver, with the main difference that this sum over lambda is now limited to few eigenvectors. Few eigenvectors eventually around a specific target energy. Now, these SLAP-C are a very sophisticated library, and Yambo can exploit some of the schemes implemented. If you don't set anything, the default one would be this Creed-Schur, which is an optical scheme for iterative solution of the matrix. But you can also set other schemes you can try. And these are experimental features. You can eventually add a preconditioner and play with the tolerance of the SLAP-C scheme. You have some control on the use of the memory. In any case, the important message here is that this scheme is quite efficient, not as efficient as the Haydock one, but in any case, much better than the full diagonalization, and it gives you all the information you need for both the spectrum and the post-processing through the energies and the wave functions. And that's it. So thank you for your attention.